Alright, so I'm going to respond to comments. Some of these I've responded to. I think all of them I've responded to, but some of the comments have been good recently, so I thought I would do a video responding to them spontaneously. So I'm going to do them backwards as well, as usual. The first commenter says, that's it. The first average person who has had a little spiritual experience sets himself up as a master of consciousness on YouTube, like thousands of others. What arrogance. So, funnily enough, I find when people post critical comments, of course, all the critical comments are directed towards a character, this character, and that's the barrier that can't be seen past there, because when viewed from a position of separateness, a separate self, a separate character, all that can be seen is other selves, and the fixation then attaches itself to that image of this character here. And it's funny, those comments always tend to respond to the title, and these comments come from someone who's not actually watched the content of the video, because I suppose they find this character off-putting and they're not interested in what words are coming out his mouth. Fair enough. But this comment was in response to the video where I was talking about this exactly, that this channel isn't about the David character. It's about transcending those barriers, those boundaries, so that there's a feeling of intimate non-separation. There's a feeling of unity, of oneness, of wholeness and completeness. And in that, there's no need to project out fixated beliefs directed at a specific character. In that, everything's already perfect. So whenever someone comments, the comment is always a description of experience, of the commenter's experience. And the experience, it says, or is telling us, I experience a thought that this character is arrogant, and I believe that thought. And the belief is that thought refers to an objective reality outside that thought that is real. And I'm saying here that there is no objective reality. So the thought only refers to itself. That experience, that belief, is only, let's say, is only real to the seeming character that experiences it. When we drop those beliefs, when we let go of that, when we see past the characters, and to do that we need to see past our own character, the own subject of experience, the me. What I'm saying is that is a more free, more beautiful, more intimate, more connected way of experiencing life. But in saying that, that experience is perfect for the one who experiences it at that time, because that's the only way it can be. So I have no agenda in saying that someone has to experience something in a certain way. I'm just pointing to something, and that's all I'm doing, and that something has nothing to do with this David character. So anyway, moving on to the next one. So Gypsy Moth says, I've been avoiding these types of videos or anything to do with non-duality because it just makes me incredibly angry. Stirs up even more thoughts and questions I know can't be answered like a hornet's nest. I've been wanting to completely give up looking and go back to the separate illusion. It feels most natural at this point. Is there anything wrong with that? So the emotions that are coming up are there to be experienced, not resisted. These emotions come up, let's say, for a reason. That's maybe a bad way to put it, but they're there to be experienced. They're not there to be resisted. When they're fully accepted, when the emotion is, let's say, fully moved into, when you're fully absorbed into the emotion, let's say, when you, let's say, welcome the emotion, become interested in the sensation of that, become interested in the experience of that, move into it, try and feel it fully, try and accept it into experience rather than having an aversion and pushing it away, having a thought or a belief that says this emotion is bad or this emotion shouldn't be here because it's uncomfortable. There's infinite wisdom within that emotion, and the emotion appearing as an opportunity to, let's say, avail of that wisdom, to learn from that wisdom, to accept that wisdom into this experience, whatever this is, and for it to be felt in its entirety, in its fullness, in its beauty. And that emotion's coming up to be experienced. It's there for a reason. And I know it feels uncomfortable, but I could say that you're lucky in that this is being presented to you in the way it is, because experienced life knows what to do, and it's giving you that opportunity to accept that flavour of experience, accept that deep and intense, visceral wisdom that's in there. The other part is you know what to do. The intuition is there, and if it's going to be giving up on this path or whatever, I would say if that intuition says yes, then give up. Do what feels most natural, most comfortable to you. I would suggest that these emotions will come back, will at some point, if there's the resistance to them there, if there's the avoidance of them, they'll probably come back. If you've experienced a shift in perception, a shift in your experience of yourself, or if, let's say, that ball started to roll, you'll know. You'll go back into life living as a character, and it might feel a certain way, it might feel right, it might feel perfect, and that's great. But the experience of that might bring around this inquiry again. Or it might not, I don't know. But your intuition knows, and I can't tell you what to do. But if it's saying give up on the path, then give up. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with avoiding that emotion if it's too intense, and those mechanisms of avoidance are there to protect you from the emotion. It might be too intense to let them go and go fully into the emotion right now, and that's fine. That's the way it needs to be. I could tell you from my own experience, this ball started rolling when I was in my late teens, and I ignored it. I went back to life, living as a separate character for a long time. And in that long time, life was never right. That experience of myself, those questions persisted, and life was very uncomfortable until I casually got back into this, but not with a intense seeking energy behind it, just with a relaxed curiosity. And the difference was I was enjoying the experience. I was enjoying the inquiry. I was enjoying the investigation, let's say, as a hobby, as something that I liked to do. It didn't have any intense reasons or anything like that behind it. And that relaxed curiosity brought about that shift. And after that shift, there was no going back. There was the only option was to let go of those mechanisms that were separating me from the emotional experience, and to go fully into the emotions without anything there but the emotion, without any me separate from the emotion. And then you realise what emotion is. And it's indescribable, but there's a wisdom in there that can't be put into words. And it moves the way it does, and it can be very uncomfortable. But after awakening, there's that boundless sense of, let's say, self. It can't really be called self. Clearly can effortlessly accommodate all of that experience, so it's okay. But the contracted subject, the me self, as a thought character, as an idea, can't cope, or for me it couldn't cope with those emotions. Those emotions were too intense. So you could say that had to be forgotten about to actually fully experience what an emotion is. And it only happened when the time was right. And I don't think the David character would have been able to handle it if it had come at a different point. So it all just seems to work out the way it does, and it all works out perfectly. There's nothing wrong with being identified with a character. There's nothing wrong with avoiding emotion. It's all perfect. It's all the way it has to be. And I can honestly tell you that it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All the meanings and all the beliefs in it mattering are just generated by thought. They're not real. Ultimately, none of this matters. So just do what's right for you, and just trust life that it's going to unfold the way it is. So it's going to be uncomfortable. Life has experiences in it that are intense, and that's just the way it is. if it gets too uncomfortable from a position of me, then you can come back to the inquiry, and that will just come about naturally. It's nothing that has to be forced. And at the end of the day, it's all okay. It's all just okay. It's fine. This is about experiencing life closely and intimately. It's about getting closer to life. Not existing as something separate from life that relates to it and imposes its own beliefs and judgments on it that are constructed by thought. It's about letting all of that go and just getting closer and closer to just experience as it is. And as it is, sometimes it's uncomfortable, but that's okay. Anyway, I'll move on to the next one. Okay, Bees Us Mahoney says, I was sitting a couple of weeks ago by a river and I was just feeling into the direct experience. I was watching the trees and the clouds, feeling my immediate presence and energy at the same time, feeling the energy of everything around me simultaneously. Then everything shifted and seemed to fall away, and there was a sudden realization awakening that I was everything and everything was seemingly understood. My eyes were moving around. Sorry, I've lost it. My eyes were moving around and I was smiling, but I didn't understand who was moving my eyes or who was smiling, because I was everything. Everything was one, and it was the most beautiful feeling of joy and perfection I've ever felt, and stayed with me for a couple hours. Then slowly started to diminish. Now 2 weeks later, when I sit and I get thoughts that say, this is stupid, what's the point? My ego seems to have come back full force, and the doubt is creeping in just about everywhere, stronger than before. Now the experience feels like a dream that never happened. It's just what happens. It's so common. That glimpse, that awakening experience, the ego, the self, can't relate to that. It's threatened by that, its idea of its own absence, which comes as a thought after. That which you experienced is here now, is your experience now. It was just an experience where the thought imposed boundaries of separateness. Those assumptions of I am here, separate from the world, thinned out, and the true, you could say, non-dual nature of reality was revealed. And it's beautiful. By contrast, it's incredible. But the ego does come back, like we said, and it goes mental. All these thoughts and doubts that did that actually happen? It didn't happen. It wasn't something that happened to a me in time. It was the exiting of that and the, let's say, experience. It's not really an experience because the subject is absent when that clarifies, but the experience of non-dual nature, of unity, the disappearing, the dissolving of the boundaries between I am me and everything else. So I becomes all of reality. But the thoughts, like you said, they're just thoughts. They're just beliefs. If you notice them as such, and just come back to this. It's easy to do when you're in a beautiful scenery down by the river with the trees and the birds and the water and so on. Pardon me. It gets more difficult when, let's say, we come back to normality, when we are interacting with the world in the usual way. But when you inquire, see that these are thoughts, these are beliefs. The thoughts and beliefs co-arise with the sense of me, the sense of the subject, the sense of the one having the thoughts. If you quiet the mind enough, you can see that that sense of the subject, that sense for me, is another thought, appears within you, the knowingness of it, the awareness of it, you as reality. So that sense of me, that sense of the subject fades away, and then the experience is something that where me, myself, I, doesn't make sense anymore. Because the experience overtakes it. The pure knowingness overtakes it. In your situation, the sensory apparition, the senses, the experience, the raw experience overtakes that vague assumption thought of me. Of me and my experience, me and the world, me who relates to this and that, or even me who relates to a memory of awakening. Of course, as a thought now, it never happened, it's not real. It's here now. What you experienced is always this. What seems to cover it up is, like you said, a bunch of thoughts and beliefs that appear on top of it with this sense of me. The sense of me only suggested in the thought. When you really see that that subject, that sense of me is another thought, then you can relax that, you can let that go. And just embody what you are anyway, the knowingness that knows this, inseparable from this. It doesn't need to be figured out, it doesn't need to be found, because it's inherently here already. Appearing as those thoughts, appearing as those beliefs, as the subject that relates to them, that has these thoughts and beliefs that are mine. All that appears in you, as you, the knowingness of it, the awareness of it. So things become really simple. That ends up being good news, because you don't need to chase anything, you don't need to recreate this experience. You don't need to live as the one who believes those thoughts, that I'm no longer awake, I lost my awakening. I mean, they'll tempt you, but they can only take hold if you believe that experience of me, the thinker. When those thoughts aren't there, you're still here, but not as the me identity, not as the subject relating to my experience, but as just experience itself. I call it the knowingness, the awareness, the beingness that is inherent. It's just here anyway. Sometimes you need to look closely at those thoughts. Turn the attention round to what feels like me, and keep looking. What am I that knows these thoughts? And then just come back, as you said, to direct experience. Watch for the next thought. What am I? that knows these thoughts. It's already here. That experience you had, you can only recall that now, and it's not being recalled. It just is the nature of reality. It is the nature of you. Pretending to be a subject that's confused about something relating to me, something relating to time. And you can let all that go. Just come back to this. Anyway, I'll move on to the next one. Okay. Jalma says, whenever I think or I am, it's always referencing to the head. Feels like I'm here, alive and aware, centered around the head. Feels like somewhere closer to the back of the skull, but looking further it turns out it's just a bunch of sensations and of muscle and bone, subtle pulse, eyes, ears, nose, some pain in and around the teeth, etc. All these sensations I collectively call as my head. So then am I my head? Am I in my head or the head itself? And I realised that that's an experience. Yeah. My head is also an experience. Yeah. And it appears within you, wherever you are, that's knowing the experience. Whenever I think about I am, my attention automatically focused to the head. I think that's why. So then who's experiencing it? Where am I exactly experiencing all of this from? That's where it gets more confusing and I feel like I'm lost. Yeah. You won't get lost. Get lost in it, but you won't get lost because what you are is already here. What the thoughts are suggesting is a locality to what feels like you. That locality is a thought. The sensations around the head, if you could even focus on those sensations around the head and just the sensations. Watch for thought augmenting form onto that, locality onto that. Notice that and then drop the thought. Just the sensations. Keep watching for a thought. You'll never find yourself. What you are truly is already here, and it's entirely unlocatable. It doesn't need to be located because it's already here. It's a spatial paradox, completely paradoxical, completely non-dimensional, existing outside time but can accommodate the illusion of time. Existing outside space, but can accommodate the illusion of space. Formless, but can appear as the illusion of form. It's just here already. And that's what you are. It's not localized to a point. That point is augmented by thought. When you, like you said, you noticed it's an experience. That where is the experiencer of that feels like you? Who's noticing that? Then it's possible to notice that the who that's noticing that which feels like me that's searching for where I am, is just a thought. It co-arises with the object of thought. It might co-arise with the image of where I am in the head. Who's noticing that? What does it feel like? Does it feel like I have to find something? That's a thought or belief. What if you drop that belief? And just let what's here be what it is, without having the need to find it. You see that you are the sensation, you are the sounds, you are the image appearance, you are the thoughts. There's nothing separate from that anywhere here that's needed to observe it all. That's just a thought. When that's gone, all the senses can be appreciated fully for what they are. Infinitely mysterious, unlocatable. This might bring up some emotions, some fear. And if that happens, then they're called to be experienced. And you are the infinite, non-dimensional space that they appear within and as. And you're called to accommodate that, to accept it fully, to feel it fully without resistance, to go right into it. Because you can do that. You have the capacity to feel that. And you might have to feel that fully before this clarifies more. When it clarifies, it only clarifies to itself. Itself that's already here. Here being nowhere specifically. So let's do a bit of inquiry. So if we close the eyes and just notice that there's a space here. It might appear as a space. It might not, but the image behind the eyes. Forget eyes. Forget head. Forget everything but just what's appearing. Might seem like a dark space with vague forms and shapes. Notice that there's no boundary to that. Up, down, left, right. There's no clear boundary. It's not clear. It's boundless. Without dimension, you could say it's infinite. Forwards, backwards, it's not clear if it's dimensional or not. Could be infinite space forwards and backwards. Could just be flat. Neither, both. See, in this space, you are the knowingness that knows all experience. Watch for the thought. When that thought comes up, whatever it's about objectively, notice the feeling of the one who's watching or having that thought. So if I have a thought that says, this is stupid, I'm not getting this, in that thought there's the idea, the belief that this is stupid, I'm not getting this, and the I who's not getting this, suggested in the context of the thought, and there's a feeling to it, there's a feeling of me that feels real. That subject, that me that has the thought, I relate to the thought, and the thought is being had by me. Notice that that's another thought, it's transient. Notice that, let go of it. Come back to you, that which is not transient, that which is the knowingness, the awareness, that's already, always here, that accommodates the thoughts about me and my problems. The thoughts about me and my problems appear within this. What you are is present in the absence of those thoughts. So watch for a thought. Notice it. Notice the feeling of the me, the subject, when it appears. Recognize that that's not you. It's just the transient apparition. Let it go. Let it go and come back to yourself. Yourself that you don't need to come back to. That's already here. What are you that's aware of your thoughts? You could say that the thoughts appear as vague and unlocatable as they are. They appear as modulations of this knowingness, of this awareness. As in the thoughts of the objective thinker and the objective world, and the thinker who thinks, the me who has thoughts, are made themselves of this knowingness, this awareness. Again, keep watching the thoughts. Watch for the next thought, and just rest. Anything appears, notice it, let it go. This is already you. You're already awake. You are this awakeness. These words that I am speaking are you. Anything that appears within your experience is you, the knowingness of it. So this, you could say this is you talking to yourself. Talking yourself through this process of inquiry. Trying to elucidate what you've always known. That I am not that. I am not this limited person, this thinker who struggles with thoughts. All of this appears within me, but not separate from me. And what you are isn't limited by anything. doesn't need to be found, doesn't need to be figured out. The thoughts of finding and figuring out appear within what you are. This limitless space, this boundless awareness, knowingness. Dilate this out to the body sense. Watch for an image of the body containing the sensations. Notice that that image is merely a thought. Feel the sensations of the body wherever it naturally lands, the whole body or partially. And focus on the pure sensation. Notice if there is thought augmented onto that sensation, giving it shape, giving it form, giving it location. Notice them and let them go. Let the sensation move and morph and expand how it wants to. And see that it has no shape, it has no boundary, it has no relative position relative to anything else. And it appears within you, the knowingness of it, as the knowingness, as a modulation of the substance of reality. Now with that, expand the attention out towards the sounds. Notice if there's a projection of the room, an idea of location. I am here and the room's out there. That's the fridge buzzing, the shape of the fridge. Notice that's a thought and let it go. Just the sound. Notice if the sound is different in substance from the sensation. If there's a difference there, what's making it look different? What's making it look like separate with separate values? If that's a thought, let it go. Let go the image of room, space, dimensions. Just the sensation, just the sound. If there's a sense of a me hearing with locality, notice that that's a thought. The pure experience of sound doesn't need that. Me hearing. Let go of that, come back to just the sound. I think that'll do. Anyway, thank you, and I'll talk to you next time.